Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is RG Latino, and today I wanted to go over some of the games that were shown on some of the most recent showcases, specifically for the State of Play, Summer Games Fest, and the Xbox Showcase. All of those showcases had a lot to offer. I think a lot of people were slightly disappointed with some of the announcements that were shown, especially with Summer Games Fest. I think there was a lot of smaller titles and not really a lot of bigger, like AAA looking games that were really highlighted and shown within the Summer Games Fest in particular. But I think there were still plenty of great games, whether that was AAA or indie, that was shown, and I want to go through and talk about some of the highlights and my personal favorites that I saw from each of those showcases. I'm not going to go over all of them because that would be a lot, and that's way too much for a video that I want to make it at least as short as possible as I can make it, and digestible, so I don't want to make it like 2+ hours. So I'm gonna go over some of the titles that I saw, and I want to start first with the State of Play. So I first want to start off with the State of Play that was shown earlier last week, and I want to talk about some of the highlights with that. There was a lot of people who were saying that this State of Play was a little bit underwhelming, and personally, I think it was honestly really good. It was a lot better than what the previous State of Play was like. I think that one was definitely way more underwhelming, and this one I thought there was a lot more to show. They had a lot more games and a lot more new announcements that were highlighted and shown. So I wanted to go over a couple of those, starting off with Pragmata, which is one of the new games from Capcom. I believe it was already shown off previously on another State of Play, but we got a much better look into the gameplay for that game and a little bit more of when we should be expecting it, and it looks like it's going to be expected for 2026, so that's good that we finally got an update on it. But I love seeing the gameplay for it. Kind of reminds me of Dead Space a little bit, but it's you're in space and you're there with this robotic AI child. For this, like, she is going to be your companion throughout this journey, and it looks really cool and really sci-fi, and it gives me a very much, like I said earlier, like a feel of Dead Space, but kind of with the sci-fi elements, reminds me of the Platinum games, I think called Inquisitor. I think that's what it's called, but it reminds me so much of that, and I think that one looks really cool. And Capcom, I'm just going to say from the start right now, has been cooking. They have definitely another title that I will be talking about later on in this video, but they have been doing some fantastic work recently with earlier this year dropping Monster Hunter Wilds, and then looking forward to what next year is going to bring with Pragmata and another game that I'll talk later on. But honestly, for one of the first few games starting off the State of Play, I thought Pragmata was definitely a big highlight for that. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm really curious to see more about it, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more in the coming months of this year. So another one that I wanted to really highlight is Romeo is a Dead Man. That one I saw, and the first intro for the trailer was really interesting. It had a really cool 2D art style that I wasn't really expecting, and then it switched over into like a 3D sci-fi anime kind of looking art direction at that point, when showing off the gameplay, and I really was digging it. I loved it. It really was. I don't even know what I could really think of it, what it reminded me, but it was something new, something fresh. And then on top of that, I did see that in certain parts of that trailer, it looked like there was different directions for how the game, I guess, is going to be going, like different gameplay elements. So I think this game will be kind of like a smorgasbord of like different genres and all coming together for this action title. I'm sure that the main focus is going to be like an action game, but I'm sure they'll have like different elements to it that will make it way more unique. And so I'm looking forward to this game. And yeah, that's also pretty early on into that state of play, but as we keep going, there's definitely a lot more talks and showings of like already announced titles like Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater Delta. We got a new gameplay trailer for it, and it looks way more like you got a much more in-depth look on the gameplay, and it looks great, honestly. Like, I'm really looking forward to this game coming out. I believe it comes out in September, October, I believe. And I remember playing this game specifically on the Vita. I didn't play it when it originally came out, and then I played it more on the Vita, surprisingly enough, and I loved that Vita port. That one was really good, so I'm really looking forward to jumping back into this remake for Metal Gear Solid. It looks like they're doing a great job, and with how they handled Silent Hill 2, I think that will be something that Konami will hopefully hit out of the park. Speaking of Silent Hill 2, that is another thing that was talked about. Not Silent Hill 2, but Silent Hill F. We got way more looks into the gameplay for that, and like the setting and who we're going to be playing as, and I'm really looking forward to this Silent Hill entry. Just like going away from Silent Hill and moving to a Japan location is very interesting. I'm really curious how Silent Hill, the town, is going to connect with this town in Japan, but I'm sure we'll learn more as once the game comes out and once we learn more of the story. But the Silent Hill F gameplay looks very reminiscent of how Silent Hill 2 Remake was, and I think that is probably the best way that they can go about with Silent Hill F and moving forward with this entry. So Silent Hill F, I'm very much looking forward to. It looks really creepy. Obviously you get the fog back, so it's going to be adding a lot more to the creepy and horror element to it. The enemies that were shown were really cool, and got to see a little bit of the puzzle solving I saw with some of those scarecrow looking characters or enemies that you see, and that I'm really looking forward to. Silent Hill F is definitely on my radar, and after playing Silent Hill 2 Remake, I'm really hoping that Konami can hit this one out of the park as well. So stay tuned for more information on that. Hopefully we'll get some more before the release date, maybe like another trailer or more look into the gameplay. And I might pick it up and play it on stream for sure. You know, I already did it with Silent Hill 2, so maybe I might do that with Silent Hill F. We'll see, but I'm really looking forward to that game as well. Another game that I'm really looking forward to that I think is made by not an indie developer. They're more an indie team, but Bloodstain. That game was very interesting, really cool art direction, but I really liked it, and it's going to be like a side-scroller Metrovania type of game, so I'm really looking forward to that. That honestly looks like something up my alley. I really enjoyed the other side-scrolling games that I've gone through right now, that I've played through. Prince of Persia. I'm really looking forward to playing some Metroid Dread. Haven't gone through it, but I've heard nothing but great things. Dead Cells, like, it reminds me so much of those type of games, and the combat looks really cool, really interesting. So I think this will be something that I will definitely be keeping my eye out on. I love my fair share of Metroidvania side scrollers, so this is definitely up my alley for sure. And then moving on, this is a game that I remember seeing, I believe last year or 2 years ago. But I have been keeping my eye on this because I love this studio and I love the games that they've made, and that is Sword of the Sea. That is the title for this game. It was already previously announced, but we saw a little bit more about it in this state of play, and I'm so looking forward to this game. This game is made by the same people who did Journey, Abzu, and I think one other game. But those games, specifically Journey, I played through Journey, and that was one of the best experiences I've ever had with a video game ever. And like playing through with another person, playing through in this silent world where all you're doing is just, working together to get to the next spot. And the music for Journey is just, it's so beautiful. It's great. And I have been looking forward to seeing what this studio does next. And Sword of the Sea, God, you're telling me I get to basically skate in a desert on a sword? Count me in. I'm already invested at that point. That sounds like a fun game. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Sword of the Sea is like. I believe that game will be coming out later this year or next year. But that game is going to be a game to look out for sure. And then moving on to towards the end of the state of play, there were two games that were very much highlighted and had a lot of people talking about. And the first one that I want to talk about is 007 First Light. This game is being developed by IO Interactive, which is the creators of the Hitman series. So that already is like a match made in heaven. That sounds like that's genuinely a perfect match right there. So I think what a lot of people were a little bit about was the James Bond that you will be playing. It's a much younger looking James Bond, not like, an older version of him. But I did see a lot of people thinking that, maybe IO Interactive can make this, a much bigger series. So with this First Light entry, it would be, an introduction to James Bond, and if this does well, and we get another entry into this series, then we can see that James Bond progress and get older and get more rugged and less like a baby face kind of I just turned 21 looking 007 to a much more 007 that we're very familiar from in like the movies, how we would see him. So I'm really looking forward to this. Like I said, IO Interactive and 007, that is a match made in heaven right there. And we got to see a little bit of like some of the cutscenes and a little bit of gameplay. Not too much, but they do plan on having a gameplay demonstration later on in the year. So I'm sure we'll see more about it. And that game will be coming out next year. So I'm really looking forward to this. IO Interactive has not really done wrong with the Hitman series, so I think this one will be something that IO Interactive will be able to nail. Like, they'll be able to really hone in on what 007 is and, get the feel of it. And their character development, I hope it's really good with this James Bond, but we'll see. And this final highlight that was shown in the state of play is a brand new Marvel fighting game called Marvel Token, and it is being developed by Arc Systems. And I gotta say, this game looks super cool. I love myself some fighting games. I'm not really good at them, but I just love playing them. Like, I love Street Fighter 6. I really enjoyed Mortal Kombat 1, Tekken 8. Like those type of games, those type of fighting games, I really enjoy and I really love. And I saw this title and I first assumed that it was going to be a Capcom versus Marvel game, because it's been years at this point since we've had one of those entries. But no, we got a brand new Marvel fighting game that is being backed with PlayStation and being developed by Arc Systems. And this game looks super stylish. Like, I'm talking about that they have Iron Man in a very Iron Man Gundam kind of suit, and it looks super cool as hell. The fighting style, or the fighting, it looks so fluid, and it's gonna have like a 4-player tag system kind of thing. Well, not 4-player, but 4-character tag system, so you can switch out or have multiple assists from 4 different characters, So this is something that I'm really looking forward to, and PlayStation, I believe, is definitely betting kind of big on this one, and honestly, I think this is where this is a good bet to put your money on, because based off of what people have been talking online and how people have seen this, I think a lot of people are very hyped for this game, and I'm, myself included, I'm really looking forward to this, and hopefully we'll get to see some more gameplay for it later on in the year. But I believe they said that this game is not going to be coming out until 2026, so we have quite a while until that game finally is in our laps and we can finally play through it. Aside from those entries, there were some other ones that I wasn't really as interested in, but this state of play I thought was a lot more, was a lot better than the previous one, and I think that what they showed was really good, really high quality stuff, but in comparison to the Summer Games Fest and the Xbox showcases, I think it was a little bit lackluster. But they did a great job with this state of play. They still did a really solid job. I would probably give this like maybe a B on like a rating system, like A through F kind of situation. I would give this a solid like B. Like there was definitely a lot to look forward to within the state of play, and there's I'm really looking forward to see what else PlayStation has in store for us. So, but now I'm going to move on to the Summer Games Fest showcase. That one had a lot more games and personal highlights that I wanted to talk about, so let's get into that one. So with Summer Games Fest, we had a pretty big showcase. This showcase was about 2 hours long, and there was a lot to go into, but I'm definitely going to only focus on a few that were definitely some of my personal highlights and what I was really interested in seeing more on. So the first one that I really want to talk about is Mortal Shell 2. Now, I didn't know that there was already a Mortal Shell game, but this Mortal Shell 2 trailer was really cool. It was super interesting to see this, like, not really, I guess, kind of like a Souls-like game, but it also has, like, you know, some shooting elements to it, so not really overall like, you know, Souls-like, but the gothic horror, eldritch kind of horror vibe to that was super cool. I really enjoyed that, and the metal music that was playing throughout was honestly so good too. So I'm really looking forward to see what this game ends up turning out to be like. You know, I should definitely probably go back and play Mortal Shell 1, see how that game was, and if that's more in line with what I'm interested in. So, you know, that way I can have those proper expectations for 2. But starting off, that was pretty good. That was a really solid trailer. And then afterwards, we started going into Jeff Keighley glazing Hideo Kojima, because that man stays loving Hideo Kojima and like glazing him to death. But we got a kind of an out of context clip for Death Stranding 2. There wasn't really much to go off of, but it was interesting, like, to see, especially like, wow, the motion capture technology that Hideo Kojima has with his studio is incredible. Like, the facial movements, the facial capture is just something to behold. Like, he's doing like some black magic or something, but he is such a talented developer, and I'm curious to see how Death Stranding 2 is going to turn out to be. I believe it comes out this month, so we won't have much longer to, you know, to wait until Death Stranding 2 is in our hands and we're all playing it. Personally, I'd never played Death Stranding 1, but I've heard a lot of mixed things about it. So, but based off of previews that I've seen a lot of people talk about how Death Stranding 2 is basically just building off of what Death Stranding 1 had done, and just not reinventing anything, but making it better, refining it more. And so I'm kind of looking forward to see how Death Stranding 2 really lands with everybody. And based off the previews, I think it's going to be a smash for sure. The next one that I wanted to highlight was End of Abyss. End of Abyss is this top-down sci-fi horror looking game that I was really intrigued. Like, it was something that I'd never really seen so far, and one of the mechanics that you see is that if like something falls off from one of the enemies that you're fighting against, if something falls off from it, it just basically grows into like this other enemy. So you're trying to get rid of these enemies as quick as you can, kind of situation. But this game looked really interesting, and I believe I saw that it was being developed by some people who did Little Nightmares, which I think that is very appropriate for this type of game. Like, I definitely would have expected some developers from Little Nightmares to be creating something like this, but it looks really cool. I'm definitely looking forward to this. I am gonna keep an eye out for it, and hopefully we'll see more about it later on throughout the year. So yeah. Another indie game that I saw that was not really announced, but has gotten another trailer to really show off more of what we're gonna be doing is Mouse PI. Mouse PI is this Steamboat Willie first-person shooter game, and Troy Baker is voicing the main character. At this point, Troy Baker literally voices almost every character within gaming, so I'm kind of not surprised at this point that someone like Troy Baker would be in something like this. But Mouse PI, I'm really looking forward to. Hopefully we get to see more here soon. I believe it comes out sometime this year, so hopefully we'll see more before it eventually comes out. Another Capcom game that I'm really looking forward to is Onimusha Way of the Sword. This game is super cool. I love the the samurai action that is going on with it, but it has like a lot more of an interesting art direction for it that I'm really liking. It kind of reminds me of like another game that we see later on in Summer Games Fest, which I will talk about it, is Wu Chang. But this game looks very cool, really fast-paced action, and Capcom is staying cooking with these entries. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I know that Onimusha 2, I believe, one of the previous entries, is coming out soon, like as remasters. So hopefully I'll be able to play that and really get to see more of what that game was like, back in the day, and definitely before this new entry comes out. So I'm really looking forward to that for sure. All right. This section will definitely be highlighting a couple more like definitely indie titles for sure. Summer Games Fest had a lot of indie titles that I wanted to focus on, and I'm so happy that they did, because trust me, I think indie games have really been the highlight of the gaming industry for quite a while now, where AAA games are faltering super hard. Indie games are picking up the slack, and they are creating stuff that is super out there, super cool, really reinventing, and they're just doing really weird stuff. Like this one that I'm about to talk about is one of the weirdest games I think I've seen in quite a while, but it's called Felt That Boxing, and it's essentially like a puppets, almost Muppets style game that's about boxing. It's like a Punch Out style game, but you play as this puppet who is, trying to become a better boxer, and he's doing everything to get there. So you go through like a whole training process through before you go and fight these characters and stuff like that. You go through a whole training process, and it looks like really goofy stuff, and then the fighting looks super wild and insane. It kind of gives me like a VR feel to it, so I'm not sure if this is a VR title or if this is just a normal console game, but it kind of looks like it. Regardless, I'm very interested to see what this game is like. What really got my attention, and I even talk about it in my stream when I did a live reaction for the Summer Games Fest live stream, was I was very intrigued with the fact that Flying Lotus is attached to this for the soundtrack for this game. And to see him attached to this, that was probably enough for me to be like, okay, I'm interested now. But with the art direction and everything on how they're doing, like, you know, the whole puppets art direction, I thought that was already intriguing enough to me. So with Flying Lotus, that's just a cherry on top with it. And then another indie title that I want to highlight is Out of Words. This is a 2-player co-op game. This one has that claymation style that I feel like a lot of games have really been honing in a lot more recently. Like we saw games like Harold Halibut and most recently The Midnight Walk have that type of style. But this game is a 2-player co-op game, and you play these characters who looks like they don't have any mouths, and they have to communicate each other by just, you know, their body and, you know, traversing through. And obviously you can play this with another person, but the art style is really what drove me to being like, yo, this is something that I'm really looking forward to. So this one, I got my eye out, and hopefully we'll hear more about that later on. And then the next indie game that I want to talk about is Mina the Hollower, and it is being developed by the people who develop Shovel Knight, Yacht Club Games. I am super excited for this game. This game will be coming out in October 31st, 2025, so this year. This game is very, very reminiscent of, it's in the same vein of Game Boy Color type of game. But this game already has a demo out, and I've played a little bit of it, and I'm really looking forward to it. Like, it's a great demo, highly would recommend it, and I can't wait to see what Yacht Club Games does with this. But the next game that I want to talk about is also an indie game as well. I remember seeing it a while back in one of either the State of Play or Xbox showcases. I don't remember which one it was, but it was announced already a while ago, and we just haven't seen more of it. But recently we got a new trailer, and it was for this game called Mixtape, and has a really cool art direction as well. Reminds me a lot of South of Midnight, but it's basically you're these teens and you're going through the summer, and you have, you know, you're just going through doing teen kind of stuff, you know, TPing people's houses. And this is like back, I think, like this is supposed to take place in like the 90s or like early 2000s or something like that. But, you know, you're just kind of these teens goofing off, doing stuff, you know, before the summer ends, and you have this really killer soundtrack to back it as well. So that I'm really looking forward to. The art direction looks great. The soundtrack looks like it's going to be just nothing but bangers. And yeah, I really hope that they do a great job with this. And it's being developed by Annapurna, so hopefully this is good, especially with what's been happening recently with Annapurna, where a lot of people had a mass exodus from that company. So we'll see what happens, but I'm really looking forward to this one for sure. And then another game that I'm really looking forward to is a game called Act of Blood. This one is, I can't believe we're already getting games similar to Sifu, but definitely very similar to Sifu when it comes to the fighting. Like you're this guy, and it looks like he is out for vengeance for something. I don't know. Doesn't really say who or what. But they are just going on a rampage, and they are fighting that same style as in Sifu. Not as cinematic as Sifu, but still really cool. And I also saw that there is some gunplay, so I'm sure that there will be some elements of that thrown into the mix. So hopefully we get to see more, and I believe this is being developed by like one person or something like that. So seeing this person create something really cool, really interesting with that style, I'm really looking forward to it. And then another one that I'm really excited for is Scott Pilgrim EX. And I think a lot of people were really looking forward to this. When this got announced, I think a lot of people were pretty hyped, because Scott Pilgrim, the beat 'em up game, the first one, got remastered not that long ago. And that game was honestly an underrated gem. I have it and I've played it on Switch. It's great. It's fantastic. Highly would recommend it. And those same people are actually developing the Scott Pilgrim EX, developed Shredder's Revenge, the beat 'em up TMNT game. And they're also, I believe, developing Marvel Cosmic, which is also a Marvel beat 'em up game. Scott Pilgrim and Shredder's Revenge are great games. Highly would recommend them. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Scott Pilgrim EX is like. And then another game that was shown, this one, definitely a change of pace here, and is not like the previous indie games that I've talked about, but is a game called Ill. This is the first time I've heard about this game or seen anything about this game, but apparently this game has already been announced, was already announced a while ago, and I guess I just missed it. But this game is this first-person horror game, and you are going through this like area that has been taken over by a bunch of ugly-ass creatures. That it's just like, ugh, it makes your skin crawl. Like the way that they look at you, the design, everything like that is just like, ugh. But it kind of looks like how Biohazard, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard looked like. And I have not played Biohazard because that game freaks me the fuck out. But this game looked really cool, really interesting. I hope we will get to see more, considering that a lot of people have said that this game came out or was first announced like years ago and then haven't heard anything since. So I'm hoping that we will hear more soon, or at least get, you know, a much more concrete release date, because I think they said that this was coming out 2026 or so, I believe. But this trailer got me very excited for this game. And then we have a couple more games that I wanted to just focus on with the Summer Games Fest. Another one that was really interesting to see was, good lord, I'm going to butcher this name. I think it's called, hold up, Infinicinimals? Something like that? I don't know. You can clown me on my pronunciation there all you want. I really don't know how that was supposed to be pronounced. But that game is this mix of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and sci-fi to it. You're like this alien that crash lands in, it looks like someone's backyard, but you're going through this kind of like backyard environment with a bunch of sci-fi elements to it. I think this is going to be really cool, and hopefully we get to hear more about that too. I think they said that this game is coming out next year, so we'll probably see more later on throughout the year, and hopefully sometime next year as well. The next one that was shown for Summer Games Fest was Wu Chang Fallen Feathers, I believe that was what it's called. Yeah, Fallen Feathers. This game, very much how I was talking about with Onimusha, has that same Japanese art style, like horror art style to it, and like mythical type of creatures. But this one is more of a Souls-like. Definitely looks more like it's a Souls-like game. But I'm very much looking forward to it, and it's coming out in July 25th. Pre-orders are already up for it, so if you are interested in playing this, then definitely go ahead and pre-order. Personally, I'm not a pre-order type of guy, just because I've been burned by pre-orders before. Cyberpunk 2077. So I will never do pre-orders like that again. But this one looks really cool, and it's also being done by a Chinese developer, which, like how I talked about previously with Black Myth Wukong, I'm happy that Chinese developers are finally really getting more into the video game industry, because, you know, I feel like it's been really dominated by Western games. We definitely need some Chinese developers to come in and, you know, shake it up a little bit with some of these games. So hopefully this game turns out great. But now we get into a very big announcement. So throughout the Summer Games Fest live stream, Jeff had very much alluded to something big was coming. Something big was going to be announced. And while we're going through these trailers, there was kind of like some talks of, like, you know, of Resident Evil. You know, Capcom had created some trailers or some videos with the voice actress who did the voice for Lady Dimitrescu in Resident Evil Village, and she announced first, a Capcom sale, and you're like, okay, why did we need this? What's going on? That's weird. And we're like, all right, whatever. Capcom faked us out. Then we get to the second one, and we start seeing like all of this stuff of Resident Evil, because I believe it's like the 30th anniversary next year. And the main guy for Resident Evil comes up on the video, and he says, just hold on, just wait a little bit. The trailer will be shown sooner than and just like in a blink here soon. And everybody was like, dang, they faked us out. What the heck? I thought we were about to get an announcement. And then we get to the last trailer for the Summer Games Fest live stream, and Jeff Keighley is talking about this game, and he finally starts showing the trailer, and I didn't know what it was. I was very confused. It looked like a new entry for something. We didn't get to see who developed it or anything like that. It was just straight into this trailer, and a lot of people were like, okay, what is this? What's going on? The trailer keeps going, and you still got plenty of questions, and then all of a sudden you see the main person who's going to be playing, you're going to be playing in this game, is just strapped up, like hanging upside down. And you're like, whoa, what the fuck? What's going on? And then they start showing a decimated place, a place that was destroyed by nukes. And you're like, whoa, what is this? And then you see a police station. And you're like, wait a minute. I recognize that police station. And then you see the inside, and you see the main statue of when you were playing in Resident Evil 2, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is Resident Evil. And then finally, all that build up, they finally dropped this big bomb saying, yo, Resident Evil Requiem next year in February. They even give you a specific release date. I believe it was like February 26th next year. And everybody went crazy. But here's the thing. During all of this, Resident Evil Requiem is a big announcement for sure. But Summer Games Fest, didn't really have as many big announcements or, really a lot of big things to look forward to. And we didn't really get that, oh my God type of moment until the very end. So it's cool. I'm very glad that we're getting finally Resident Evil Requiem. That's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be playing that 100%. I'm really looking forward to it. Capcom, like I said, stay cooking. But when it comes to the Summer Games Fest and overall my thoughts on it, I think it was very, very tame. There was some really cool stuff shown, some really nice new games that I'm looking forward to, but overall, I really needed some more from it, and I think we just didn't get that with the Summer Games Fest. So rating this Summer Games Fest showcase, I'd rate it a solid C for sure. But now we finished with the Summer Games Fest, and then the next one that we go into is the Xbox showcase. And Xbox, I think they did a fantastic job this time around. And with the Xbox showcase, we start off by talking about the Outer Worlds 2. Outer Worlds, I played the first game. It's really good. I really do enjoy it, and Obsidian did a great job with it. I think it is a game that I think a lot of people have been looking forward to for a while, and Obsidian they just recently released Avowed earlier this year, which is also a great game. I think a lot of people had some different expectations for it, and we're thinking this is going to be Obsidian's version of Skyrim, and it kind of is a little bit, but not really. Definitely a lot more, definitely a lot different from what they were, I think a lot of people were expecting with that game. I will say, combat in that was really good. So with Outer Worlds 2, I really hope that they do the same thing with what they did with Avowed, mainly with the combat, is, you know, just hone that in even more, make that a lot more interesting. And, you know, based off of the trailer, I think that's what we're gonna get. You know, there's some really cool stuff that we saw in that trailer, and the story, it looks interesting. I'm really curious to see what they do with this. I know that everybody raves about how Obsidian did Fallout New Vegas, and I've heard nothing but great things about that story. So, but personally, with how I played through Avowed, I wasn't really intrigued with the story as much. So, hopefully, they tap into that same well of Fallout New Vegas than what they did with Avowed. So, and then we got, you know, a showcase to show more of like the gameplay for it and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it's going to be a really solid game. This is the first, this one I think got a lot of people like, why are you doing this? This will be the first game, first Xbox game that is going to be costing $80. That's a choice for sure. I don't think people are going to be really paying $80 to play Outer Worlds 2, but I don't know. Xbox is making these rules at this point. They're just following the same line as what fucking Nintendo has done right now with Mario Kart World. So they're just following that trend, and which I think is very dumb. But starting off, pretty solid trailer for the first game shown off in the Xbox showcase. One of the next trailers that we saw was an announcement trailer for Resonance: A Plague Tale Legacy. This game looks like it's going to be either continuing the story or going to be a whole new story in the Plague Tale series. I really enjoyed the first game. The first game is super good. The story is fantastic, and I haven't played through the second game, but I've heard so many people rave about the second game. So I'm looking forward to eventually playing that second game. But Resonance: A Plague Tale Legacy is something that I wasn't really expecting to happen. But I'm happy that this game is being made, and I'm hoping, I really hope that they don't continue the story from, you know, the Plague Tale Requiem series. I hope it's like a whole new series or a whole new story, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. But this announcement trailer, I'm very hyped for. The next thing we saw was actually Xbox debuting some new hardware. They are working alongside with Asus to create their own Xbox Rogue Ally, you know, edition. So they talked very heavily about how Xbox is now really focused on making a much better gaming experience within the Windows ecosystem, which honestly, that's probably a good thing, because, you know, playing games on Windows can sometimes be fucking ass. So for them to really commit on overhauling and doing a lot more work to making that a much better experience is a great idea, and is long overdue at this point. So they talked about, you know, this Rogue Ally, and honestly, it looks very similar to what a normal Rogue Ally looks like. You know, the ergonomics are a little bit different for this one, and there's a dedicated Xbox button, because it's going to be just handling, like, you know, the Xbox ecosystem for the most part. I believe they did say that you can switch over to other, you know, other versions like Steam OS, and, like, you know, utilizing GOG, Battle.net, stuff like that. So I think that's great that they go that route, because if it was just solely Windows, I think that would really deter a lot of people. But it looks really cool. I think this will be something that some people will pick up. Do I think this will compete with like Nintendo Switch 2? Absolutely not. Nintendo Switch 2 is on its own league for sure in comparison to like the PC handhelds. So this will be something that I'm really curious to see how well it does later on in the future when it gets announced or when it gets released. And we did see some gameplay of Silksong during that presentation or that showing. So, and they said that Silksong, excuse me there. They did show that, or they did say that Silksong will be coming out the same time as the handheld, so maybe it says it's coming out this year. We'll see when that happens, but we didn't get any showcase or any trailer for Silksong, so take that with a grain of salt. The next game, moving away from hardware at that point, because that was the only thing hardware-wise that Microsoft wanted to show off. The next game that we end up seeing is a new trailer for this game called The Blood of the Dawnwalker. Sorry, I had to check my notes real quick. The Blood of the Dawnwalker. This one is like a vampire game, action game. This looks really cool. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really intrigued. I'm really curious to see some more gameplay for it. We only got to see like mainly an announcement trailer, and we saw, you know, the main character and how he got bit but is still able to walk, you know, or able to walk on this earth with the sun out. So they call him the Dawn Walker as a result. But he is like out getting vengeance for these vampires that turned him into a vampire or turned him to whatever he is. And I really am curious to see more about this. I think this will be something that is up my alley. So, and especially I need myself a nice little vampire game that allows me to wait even longer for the Blade game that they announced like last year or something like that. So this game looks interesting, looks cool. I really want to see more for it, so hopefully we'll get to see more later on in the year. After that, we got shown a new trailer for Ninja Gaiden 4. Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. I've been playing through that remake or remaster right now, and it is fantastic. It's so good, and so I'm very much looking forward to seeing what happens with Ninja Gaiden 4. And they have Platinum Games attached to it, so I know this combat is about to be stupid crazy. But yeah, the game looks really good. It's coming along really well, and we will be playing this game this year, so I'm really looking forward to it. The next game that we saw, one of the next few games that we saw in the Xbox showcase that I wanted to highlight, was honestly very surprising. I did not expect this developer to be working and showcasing a brand new game in an Xbox showcase, but these are crazy times now. But the next game that Xbox showed off was a game developed by Game Freak. The people who did Pokemon, Game Freak, that developer, they released a new announcement trailer for Beast of Reincarnation. And this game looks amazing. I really believe that Game Freak is being held back on, showing their full potential because of whether that's Nintendo or the Pokemon company or whoever is forcing them to churn out Pokemon games like every year and stuff like that. They're really just being hindered by that development cycle. And seeing Game Freak develop some have this announcement trailer for a new game that honestly looks amazing, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with this game. We didn't really get to see or get too much information in regards to it, but this looks great. This looks fantastic. And Game Freak just I feel bad that they are just forced to be making these Pokemon games every year at this point, with where each entry just looks worse and worse than the last. So seeing them actually develop something that has looks like they have a lot more passion to it is such a breath of fresh air. So I'm really hoping that this game is good, and we'll probably hear more about that later on in the year going into 2026. So this is something that I'm really excited for. One of the next games that we saw was Clockwork Revolution. We've already seen this game announced last year, but we got to see more about it this year with this trailer, and it looks like you can actually customize the main character, and I was not really expecting that, mainly because I thought this is going to be like a title that is just focused on one specific character, like kind of like BioShock, where you're playing as a character, a title character. But no, you get to customize and create your own character, and you go through this whole world in line with BioShock for sure. It looks really cool, and I'm really liking the time manipulation mechanics that you can utilize. That looks fire. So, but it's more RPG elements as well. So you get to use, you get to make or speak however the fuck you want to speak. You'll have like your own dialogue choices that you can go through and say to these people. So this game looks like it's coming along really well. It's being made by An Exile, I believe, Studios or something like that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more about this, and I think this is coming out next year. So hopefully we'll hear more about this later on in the year. But honestly, I'm very excited for this. Another title that we got a new trailer for was Chronos: The New Dawn. This is the game being developed by Blooper Team. It is a sci-fi horror game. Really, really cool. I love the horror elements, and honestly, with what they did with Silent Hill 2, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what Chronos: The New Dawn is, how it ends up turning out to be. We got, I believe, the release date for it, which is coming out this year. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Blooper Team killed it with Silent Hill 2, so I'm hoping that will be the case with Chronos, The New Dawn. After that, we got a look into another title called Mudang Two Hearts. That's what it was called. This one is brand new. I don't think I've seen it before anywhere in any previous showcases, but this one really looked interesting. The gameplay for it looked very very polished, and I don't know, like, something about it gives me a little bit of skepticism, but at the same time, how this was playing, I was like, oh yeah, this is something to really keep my eye out on for sure. So I'm really hoping that this doesn't end up becoming a game that is showcased but then never ends up coming out, but we'll see. It looks like you're fighting through a zombie apocalypse kind of infection situation going on with that game, and it's all in third person shooter, it's a third person action shooter. So I'm really curious to see more on this game. Hopefully we'll get to see more later on, but this game, I believe, is going to be coming out next year or later on, so that I'm looking forward to. So moving on with this Xbox showcase, we got a new look into Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 remake. Dude, those were games that I grew up with back in the 90s, and they were so much fun. So being able to come back and replay 3 and 4 with brand new levels, brand new things to do in that game, I'm really excited for. And we even got to see like one of the skins or the playable characters that you can skate as with Doom Guy. That was really cool to see. But yeah, this game, I'm really looking forward to it. It just gives me the 90s nostalgia that I had whenever I was a kid, and as long as it's able to nail it out of the park, I think this will be a banger for sure. The next new game that we saw, this I had been hearing rumors about and seeing people talk about for a while, but nothing had ever been concrete so far, was Invincible Versus. So this is a new game being developed by Skybound. They are the developers for games like Telltale, or like the Telltale games, or they co-develop them, I believe, something like that, with The Walking Dead. And this is not like that, but is a fighting game. This is a 3v3 fighting game, and I love Invincible. I love myself some Invincible. Season 3 just wrapped up, and it was so good. I loved it. And it looks like they're having the cast from the show come in and do their voices for the game. So that's going to be really cool, really interesting to see. And then after that, we got a new indie game called Keeper. This one looks really interesting. It's like you play as this watchtower, and a bird is on top of you the entire time. At one point, it turns it back into an egg or something like that. It was a weird concept, but it's like you're kind of navigating through this world, this really fantasy world, as this watchtower, and the animation for it looks great, looks cool. There's not much more that was really shown with that, aside from just like, you know, walking through these environments as this watchtower, but it looked really cool and intriguing. So I'm hoping that we will see some more later on, get some more details about that game later on, but I will definitely be keeping my eye out on that one. And then the last thing towards the end of this Xbox showcase was a brand new trailer for Black Ops 7. I'm not gonna lie, I'm personally not a Call of Duty person as much anymore. I used to be on that wave a lot, but then I just kind of hopped off because all these new entries just ended up feeling stale to me. So seeing Black Ops 7, I'm not really hyped about it, but I know a lot of people were very, there's a huge COD community, so I'm sure that there are plenty of people who are very excited to see this new entry come out. At this point, personally, in my belief is that Xbox should just make Call of Duty like just its own live service game. Just instead of creating new entries and, you know, all that stuff, just make it a live service title. It doesn't need the single player aspect as much anymore. No one really plays the game for the single player as much anymore. Everyone just kind of plays it for the zombies or for multiplayer for the most part. So, but I'm sure we'll get to see more about that game later on. I'm sure it will be coming out. I think it said it's coming out later this year, so we'll see more later on throughout the year. So, but that's the Xbox showcase, and overall, I think the Xbox showcase had a lot more that I was way more interested in, for sure, in comparison to like the State of Play and Summer Games Fest. Summer Games Fest had a lot, but there was still a lot and few in between, you know, kind of situation, like far and few between. So with this Xbox showcase, I probably rank this like maybe a B+, A- kind of situation. It was great. It was really good. They showed off a lot of really cool games, and the Xbox Asus ROG Ally collab, that's interesting to see. I'm really curious to see how that sells, but overall, those were the showcases that happened throughout last week. I don't know when. I'm sure Nintendo will do a showcase sometime later on in the month. I believe. I think that is the rumor that a lot of people are saying. But for now, we will just have to wait to see what happens with that. But those are some of the games that I wanted to talk about and highlight throughout all these showcases that have happened recently. And just, there's plenty that I'm looking forward to. I think my favorite one that personally I've already gotten the chance to play through a little bit because of the demo is Mina the Hollower. That game is so good, and I'm so looking forward to it. Some other games that I'm really looking forward to, that game looked cool. Chronos The New Dawn, I really hope Blooper Team just can nail that and really recreate that same magic that what they did with the Silent Hill 2 remake, Resident Evil Requiem, Marvel Token, Clockwork Revolution. There's just a bunch of games that I'm honestly really excited for. But I hope you were able to find a new game that you're interested in. You know, there's going to be a lot more games in the pipeline coming out later on this year, and I will definitely be playing some of them, so then I can, you know, see which ones are my favorite, which ones I was like, you know, I was right on the money that this one was something to keep an eye out, or see which ones, you know, just didn't pan out. So, but I hope you found something new and interesting, a new interesting game that you're excited about through this video. And yeah, I'm still working on some other videos at the moment, so keep an eye out for that. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Like the video, go subscribe to my Twitch, RG Latino. I stream on there. I did my live stream for the Summer Games Fest, and I will still be streaming Doom, The Dark Ages, and Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And yeah, just keep an eye out on some new videos that I will be dropping soon. But until then, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.